This is the Jimmy Anderson Show, the weekly report on Oregon State University basketball.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob Akamian along with the coach. Welcome to this week's show, and after facing two nationally ranked teams at home, a tough weekend, you get a split out of it and a badly needed win on Saturday that really rights the ship, so to speak.
Well, we were hoping on Thursday to get a win against UCLA, but our second half didn't come out to our liking, so going for a split isn't what we like to do at home, but when you're playing two nationally ranked teams, as you mentioned, and we did get one of them, and that was a very important win for us.
13th ranked USC fell on Saturday at Gill Coliseum. It all started out, though, on Thursday night against UCLA. They were ranked number 3 in the country. Then they're up to number 2 now because they did sweep the weekend in the state of Oregon. We'll pick up our highlights from Thursday night's game at Gill. It was the Dad's weekend, of course, and a good crowds on hand both days, especially on Saturday. Let's start with the Bruins here. A great start out of the box for the Beavers. Scored the first 8 points of the game. McKinney nails a 3. You get the ball to Scott Haskin, and this is what you got to do against a team like this.
Well, we shot the ball very well early, and it looked like we were going to be on target for a good portion of the game, and we were just clicking on all cylinders, and then it seemed like the wheels came off when it came to our shooting in the second half, and they made some great shots, and that basically was really the difference in the ball game.
It was an 11-point lead early, 21-10 as Haskin puts in that one. Don McLean hasn't scored a point yet, and that ended, however, as off a turnover. Murray, who is so quick for a big man, gets this started. There goes McLean, and he gets a couple of hoops and gets UCLA back into the game. You're never going to shut McLean down. He's one of those guys you contain, and it looked like you were going to do that most of the night.
Well, he got most of his points in the second half, and the All-Americans for the various teams that seem to come to the front when they need it the most. And if you're going to win a game, it's the second half you got to win, not the first half.
This was a game where inconsistencies showed so much on offense. There were long stretches without a basket or without any points at all. And it is, I don't know how inexplicable it is when sometimes you can't get a point out of this team.
Well, it's in shooting, and shooting is confidence, and it's one thing that's very hard to nag at people for because it's it's some technique, but most of it's confidence when it comes to shooting. And once all of a sudden you hit a few, it's like a fever. Everybody feels comfortable.
UCLA gets their first lead here on Murray's basket early in the second half. Murray, 9 points, 8 boards, 2 blocked shots, and again he was a force. Scotty Haskin gets 2 here, but it's getting fewer and farther between. In that great start, the shooting really did peter out, especially that was down to about 33 in the second half.
A lot of the damage comes on their three-point shooting, and Butler was a real key for him. He all of a sudden got hot from the perimeter. He was playing post, and he went out on the perimeter and hit 2 or 3 real key buckets for him, and that spread it out enough that we made a little surge to get it to 10, but that was about as close as we could get.
This big run where they went ahead by 8, I think they scored 9 straight points, and it almost seemed unstoppable. I don't know if you're thinking timeout or you're just wondering if you can get a hoop and stop the bleeding.
Well, that's kind of the way it was, to stop the bleeding, because they started to dominate the backboards, and they were seeming to be in the right place at the right time for a lot of things, and they are a fine team. Being ranked number 2 in the country means something, and they can go deep into the bench. They had 5 different lineups on the floor. They went small, they went medium, they went combinations. They tried different defenses, so we did stretch them in regards to them having to use a lot of players.
Don McLean got his points he needed to become UCLA's all-time leading scorer. That's been a big chase for him. He got it with free throws late in the game, ends up with 22, 15 rebounds, and in the end, UCLA, bad start, gets their balance, and they do what they do best, and when the Beavers cannot regain their balance, that's how these go.
Well, the shooting percentage just shows on the screen. That is one of the big difference, and if you don't shoot against good teams, you're going to be in trouble no matter how you play defense or how we had less turnovers. We did some very nice things, but if you shoot that poorly, you're going to have trouble.
And the way it ends, I mean, here you're leading them for quite a long stretch of the game, and you're at home. You think we're pretty darn close to beating this team, and maybe that's worse when you can't do it yourself when you're that close. Well,
those things certainly turn through your mind, but when the ball isn't going down, and and all of a sudden they're getting all their adrenaline fired up because they're going to get a win, and so The good teams know how to handle that. And if we had a little bit of a reversal, we hit a few of their shots and they miss a few, all of a sudden it's just a complete switch just like that.
72s to 62 was the final Thursday. Saturday, SC was coming in. They're ranked 2. What happens? We'll show you when we come back.
The Jimmy Anderson Show continues.
We hate to say any one game's a must-win, but obviously with SC on Saturday, Dad's weekend, you know you're going to have a big crowd, you're home, you got to win a game anyway. That was a pretty important game going in.
Well, I thought it was very important. In fact, I was very nervous for this game because, you know, you lose 2 or 3 in a row and you're at home and you lose to a nationally ranked team and then you have one right on the back of it with a great crowd and you can feel the anxiety in the air. It was a win that was very evident was needed. I think the players knew it. I knew the coaches knew it. And so all of a sudden you're into a contest that's going to be very, very important to us.
And we said last week that maybe SC was the hotter of the 2 schools because they had already beaten UCLA. They had the good road record as well, and maybe SC was going to be the tougher team. So now you got to beat them, and it's like, oh boy, look at these guys.
Our Cinderella team, George Raveling has done a great job with this group, and he knows from history how difficult it is to beat Oregon State at Corvallis. So I know their players were ready mentally and physically to have a good game. So we had to meet that type of thinking also. So it certainly wasn't going to be an easy task.
All right, let's roll the tape. Saturday afternoon, Dad's weekend. Gill Coliseum is sold out for the first time this year. Here's SC. They've won 9 in a row, and you got off to a great start Thursday night. They get off to a great start in this game. You got to stop Harold Miner, but it's hard. Even when you foul him, he ends up shooting 3 free throws.
Well, his range is so great when you get out there and put pressure on him. If you do happen to foul him, that is 3 for the line.
And he's going to have a nice little 30-point night. He's got such a beautiful shot. It is fun to watch him shoot the ball, but it's not fun when you're on the other bench. But he gets off to a good start. SC gets up 24-10 in this game, and it is not looking good. And again, you just warm up. You do get the ball inside, where early on it's a little bit of a battle.
Well, Scotty had a nice percent after he was 2 for 6 to start,
right,
and then he hits 10 in a row. So our other players were negligent in hitting early, and so all of a sudden we do get some spark from Kareem Anderson, who started to hit a couple of threes, and that kind of ignited everybody.
Kareem comes off the bench. It's 2 in a row, 3 in the first half, and then Scotty gets his range a little bit from the outside. All he was getting early was right underneath the hoop, and you get back into the game late in the half. Now the ball movement's working. You're getting the ball passed around a little bit better, and there's Harris who gets the start, getting the ball to Haskin.
Well, our defense was working very well, too. I think they were having a hard time figuring out how we were rotating in our zone, and occasionally they would make some bad mistakes. They had 21 turnovers, and that's credited to our defense.
So it's 41-40 at halftime, and there is the brand new Bevo meter. We're going to have to come up with a name for that thing. It registers the crowd noise. 41-40 at the half. Crowd is going wild, loudest I've heard them in about a year, and it really is turned around. Great ball movement again early. Second half, there's Haskin.
Well, we think passing is and should be our chief weapon of attack on the offense, and when we do move the ball and we are getting sharper in that area, we're very effective on our offense, especially if you hit from the perimeter. That draws them out, and then we're allowed to be able to have our passing lanes open into Scotty on the post, and that certainly does help.
George took a very tough tee here because he's trying to turn the tide a little bit, but he puts you on the line for 4 free throws. This extends the lead. They get Lorenzo Orr in the game, and he does do a good job on Haskin, probably the best defensive job of the game. Keeps him a little bit close, but it's slipping away now.
Well, George has a knack of getting and knowing how he's getting his tees, so I think he was trying to rev up his team a little bit, so it wasn't all by not being designed, because that's kind of the way he uses his ploys occasionally in games.
Mario, huge steal, drive, slam, makes it a 4-point game, and then you start putting it away, and just as on Thursday night, it's SC this time cracking under the pressure. They throw some very bad passes, and you're converting. Haskin, watch this 3-point shot coming up from Charlie McKinney. I mean, when you're in the groove, these shots go in. Look at this bounce.
Yeah, that certainly is a good bounce. But free throws shooting became a very important thing to us.
29 of them
right.
in the game.
They had to foul us, and then we stepped up there and knocked them down, and that's important in games like this.
Haskin hits his last 10 shots, the big career high, 33 points. He's also got 4 more blocks over the weekend, so he continues to lead the Pac-10 in blocks, leads the Pac-10 in field goal percentage now, and obviously a very satisfying win, 92-78. What's George telling you?
Well, George is very happy for us. He knows that we have gone through some very hard times and situations, and he has an understanding that he said he was very sad that they lost, but he was very happy that if he had to lose, it was to us.
Scotty again, 33 and 10. Kareem, big game for him, 17 points. Off the bench in Minor, well, 30 points, 12 rebounds, but I guess that's containing him because they don't get much else out of the rest of the lineup.
Well, 30 points is a lot, but he can score 40. And he had 19 in the first half, so he had, I think, 11 in the second. So we did, in crucial times, make him miss a couple, and he traveled once in our little run, so we did put a little pressure on him at the end.
Talk about the lineups a little bit. I don't know if the fans understand all the time what's going on. Pat Strickland, who has been a good distributor of the ball on the offense, doesn't play at all in this game. Of course, Kevin Harris gave you some good minutes, but just talk about what you're getting at right now with the lineups.
Well, a lot of teams that play us in zones or doesn't have the guard that is overly dynamically quick. Some of the guards are very small, say 5'9", 5'10", and just are like jets. Those games we use Pat Strickland, and they're usually man pressure, and he does an excellent job for us. When we play against bigger guards and in teams that are using zones, we think Kevin is a very fine perimeter shooter, and he gives us that added dimension in our offense that he can still pass. He's a little taller, he's a little stronger, so that's the reason for that.
And you expect to continue doing that?
Right, and Brent Berry is a good zone player, too. He plays against zones. I think on this upcoming road trip, we're going to be seeing zones quite a bit. So I think Brent and Kevin will be in the lineup and in the rotation, but I wouldn't count Pat out either.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk with our player of the week, and that is indeed Kevin Harris. He'll join us when we come back.
The Jimmy Anderson Show continues.
You know, one guy who can probably take a little bit of credit for helping Scotty Haskin along to his Player of the Week honors is junior guard Kevin Harris from Sunset. 6 assists in that win over USC, and that's kind of part of your job, is doing whatever they need you to do. You start sometimes, you don't start, score some points, three-pointers, free throws, and that's kind of been your career, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I like to kind of look at it like maybe kind of platooning in baseball. I get a lot of my minutes, a lot of my time when the other team's style they play, the players that play for the other team dictate like, the situations that I go in. And getting the ball to Scotty, I think, is one of my main jobs because he's such a force inside, and I don't think anybody's proven they can stop him.
Earlier this year, you were saying you thought you'd been on the floor more times than you'd even gotten to shoot the ball, and that's kind of your style, is scrambling after it. And we take a look at some of the action here from the SC game, and you were on the floor forcing a turnover, and that's kind of the way you play the game, isn't it?
Yeah, I love to play on the floor, take charges, dive. I think that's kind of one of the funnest parts of the game. I think it can get the team going, and not everybody does it, I don't think, but I think I have real good anticipation. And
there's Yeaman right now.
And there's a call I thought should have gone the other way right there. But, yeah, I mean, it's always been part of my game. I did it in high school. We kind of practiced a lot at Sunset, and I've carried it on here.
Now, being a coach's son, I know people talk about a coach's kind of player. Definitely when you're a coach's son, you are that kind of player. I know, Jimmy, you have to agree with that.
Well, Kevin has a great work ethic, and he's not afraid of taking some bumps and bruises, and I think he has a complete game. He gets assists, he gets rebounds, he knows how to read situations, gives us some intelligence on the floor, and that always is a big factor. And he knows that Scotty is our force, so he's always looking to see some way to slip that ball in there.
Is it maybe no coincidence that you play in the big games? I mean, you'll start against a UCLA. You played quite a bit against them last year. Get a start in a game that you needed to win. Is he a big game guy? You want him in there in those games?
Well, I like him in there a lot. We've been doing some rotating depending on our needs. Sometimes when you get a dynamically quick guard, I go with Pat Strickland a little bit more because Pat seems to have a little more quickness than Kevin. But Kevin seems to be holding his own against some of the quickness, and he anticipates well, and he does a lot of nice things on the floor.
And not being the biggest guy out there, I know there's a little intimidation thing. A guy will see and say, huh, who's this? They must be running thin of players. They're throwing this guy in there.
Yeah, I think they sometimes maybe look at me and underestimate a little bit. They see 6'3", fairly frail kid, and I don't really try to back down from anybody.
And certainly you can take advantage of that, too, when you get that little
Definitely,
edge.
oh yeah, because they think they have an advantage, but I don't think they do, actually.
What did you learn playing, say, behind a Gary Payton your first couple of years here?
I think playing behind Gary was probably indescribable. It was not only a burden on you physically, because he was such a great player, but he tested you mentally as well. He got after you. He made sure everybody was playing hard every day. He made sure everybody was doing the right things. If you made a mistake, you heard about it. And I think he was kind of like a coach on the floor, and it really helped in the long run.
Always been a good three-point shooter. I know that's off a little bit this year. Is that still a big part of your game? When you're in there, you've got the green light?
Yeah, I hope so. I haven't shot the ball as well as I have in the past, or as I did last year. I'm not really sure why. I'm getting good shots, I think. I'm taking good shots when they come, and some of them just aren't falling. I've had a few bad breaks. They're in and then they're out. And I finally hit one the other day, and I was just so grateful it went in. Even that one kind of bounced around. So hopefully the rest of the year I'll shoot well.
I know the free throws, you were kind of chagrined you missed those two late in the SC game. Unfortunately, they didn't matter, but you've always been a good, I think, 75% free throw shooter.
Yeah, I don't really get a chance to shoot that many free throws because I don't play inside that much, and I really haven't shot that many. But I made my first 6 on Saturday, and I was real confident in the last 2. I think either it was a case of I was a little stiff because I'd been on the bench a while, and I was so excited and so happy that we'd won. I think I wasn't thinking about the free throws.
You'll still let him shoot a technical every now and then?
Well, I'd like to have Kevin do a little bit of everything. He helps us not only if he's starting, he helps us if he's on the scout team. He has a great work ethic. He helps our GPA with our team grade point average.
Sometimes.
So he does a good job no matter where he is.
Finally, give us a quick look at the Huskies and Cougars coming up this week. 2 road games you have a very good opportunity to win.
Yeah, I think we do. Washington State's been down a little bit, but they had to go down to LA and Arizona in these past 2 weeks. And I think they've lost 4 in a row, but they're going to be real hungry over there, and it's tough to win there. Last year we didn't play real well, and then they beat us at home this year, and I think we got a little revenge factor there.
All right. Kevin Harris, our Player of the Week. Thanks for joining us, and stay healthy. Stay out of trouble when you're taking those dives on the floor.
I will.
When we come back, we will give you the complete rundown. Huskies and Cougars coming up. We'll talk about it when we come back.
The Jimmy Anderson Show continues.
Just ahead, we'll talk about the Cougars and the Huskies, this week's opposition for the Orange Express. But first, it's time for our weekly visit with the history of college basketball. Our features prepared by the National Association of Basketball Coaches. All of us talk about Magic Johnson, of course, and his retirement, perhaps playing in the Olympic Games. But, you know, there was another Magic man years ago, long before Magic Johnson, and he made his mark in the college game. Let's listen.
Today, when fans think of court magicians, names like Johnson, Thomas, Maravich, Robertson, and Cousy come to mind. But the original magician, Hank Lucetti, made his national debut long before those guys took the floor. On the West Coast at Stanford University, Hank Lucetti was developing a style of play not seen in other parts of the country. His repertoire included running one-handed shots, behind-the-back dribbles, and some nifty defensive play. But on December 30th, 1936, he would bring all his right moves before a national audience at Madison Square Garden. Lucetti scored 15 points as Stanford snapped Long Island's 43-game winning streak, 45-31. Lucetti wasn't the first to take a one-handed shot, but he definitely added the magic. And that night in the Garden, a new era had begun, and the game would never be the same. From Lucetti to Johnson, the magic started with a peach basket.
Hank Lucetti, there's a blast from the past. Back when West Coast college basketball was considered inferior to the New York area, greatly inferior.
Well, I've heard Slats Gill and Ralph Miller talk about Hank Lucetti, but I think that goes back a little bit farther than you're in my time.
That's right, I think so. Okay, this week, Huskies and Cougars up north. When you played them here, it was such a tough time. Of course, and Ernest was passing on, had just passed that past week. You had to play one game before the funeral, one game the day after, and I don't know if that's a good judge of either one of these opponents, the way those games went. We're going to start by talking about the Cougars, because that's your first opponent this week. You played them on no rest, and they kind of ran and gunned their way to victory. They got a lot of guys who like to do that.
Well, in that situation, the Cougar game, we didn't even prepare for them. We just got back from the trip and played them the next game. We watched a couple films and really didn't have a scout team. And they played excellent basketball. They took the ball to us. We tried to press, and it was to no avail because they just used their quickness, and you can see they set up on their perimeter shooting, and they were just drilling things, and we were behind the 8 ball all night long. We were down 15, 20 points and never did recover.
Final was 81-69. Ken Critton, 0-0, had the big night, 19 points and 17 boards. Cougs sliding a little bit right now. Good time to play them at home.
Well, it's a good time because, you know, they're on a downer, but it's also a bad time because they know how important a win is, so their coaching staff will be revving their motors and they will be wanting to get it back on the winning ledger. So I think this will be a very difficult game, mainly because of the fact they're at home and they need a win badly.
That game, of course, coming up Thursday night in Pullman. That'll be the first game of the weekend. Then it's over to Heck Edmondson Pavilion, and that'll be a Sunday afternoon game against the Washington Huskies. Now, the Huskies went down pretty easily here. They couldn't withstand the Beaver onslaught early on in that Thursday night game in January.
Well, our pressure bothered them badly, and I don't think they realized that Scott Haskin was such a force inside because he was unstoppable that night. So they have revenge in this particular game because we beat them badly. Washington State, on the other hand, we have some revenge to look to them for because they beat us badly here in Corvallis.
One thing we noticed in the SC game, you backed away from the pressure because of their quickness. Turned out to be pretty effective. Is that something you look to do a little bit more now with this team?
Well, I think right now we need to protect our basket because we were giving up a lot of easy hoops, and we also put a lot of burden on Scott Haskins, who is the man in the back to protect the hoop. So we have not been pressing as much, and I don't think against Washington State it'll be such a smart move if we extend our defense and let their quickness dominate us.
So it's a big road trip coming up. Cougars, Huskies this week, and next week we'll be back right here at this time to tell you all about it and look ahead to the big homestand against the Arizona Schools. Join us next time on The Jimmy Anderson Show.
This is the Jimmy Anderson Show, the weekly report on Oregon State University basketball.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob Acampian along with the coach. Welcome to this week's show. And after splitting 4 games now and the last 2 on the road up in Washington, the season stands all even up, and there's a little buzz about postseason around the Oregon State basketball program. And even with the split, this team's played very well now for 2 weeks.
Well, we're on a good roll right now. We're playing hard basketball. We're doing some things team-wise that are very rewarding. We're getting assists, playing hard defense, and playing very unselfishly.
We're going to talk today about the 2 games up in Washington, a thriller on Thursday night that slips away in overtime, and then a convincing win on Sunday when the offense was about as consistent as it's been all season.
Well, the one at Washington State, we'd kind of like to have 3 or 4 plays back on that one, but we'll take a game like at the University of Washington, especially the shooting percentage, and every game we're out.
And for the week, the emergence of both Kareem Anderson and Brent Barry as major contributors to the offense.
Well, it always helps to have that we're freshmen step up and play more like sophomores and juniors, and this is what is basically happening within our program. These young players are getting experience, they're getting confidence, and I think they know their roles now, so we're getting some outstanding play from freshmen, would-be sophomores.
Let's roll that tape from Pullman first. Thursday night action, a thriller, as the Cougs and the Beavs go at it. And this one was back and forth all the way early on. A lot of openings in that defense. There's Brent getting the ball to Scott Haskett.
Well, that's one thing we need to continue to do, get a combination of good outside strength with inside, and that's what was so great in both these games. We were getting some from both areas.
Of course, the Cougs, you know they're going to go with their leapers, Terrence Lewis, Ken Critton. Critton killed you down here in the first encounter, and those guys are always active.
Well, they're physically strong, and they're all seniors. They started a lineup of 5 seniors, and we started a lineup of all underclassmen, so they certainly had the experience factor on us.
Brent Barry, back in the starting lineup, has a big weekend.
He probably played back-to-back his best games of the season, and it isn't by fluke that this happened. He's been working very hard in practice. He's listening and learning, and all of a sudden you start getting some of the rewards from his hard work.
There's one of the rewards. That's one for the highlight film, the little reverse layup. Ties it up early on, 24-all. Carl Anderson gave you some good work in both games coming off the bench. Much more solid in relief of Scotty Haskett.
Well, he's given us some solid minutes all year long, and I'm very proud of Carl. You know, being a senior, sometimes you like to start and get lots of playing time, but he plays an understudy role, and right now he's very important to us.
It's 37-31. You're out in front at halftime, and here come the Cougs running after the break. Here comes Derek on the transition.
Well, that's one of the things that we got to improve on, really, is keeping perimeter penetrators on the perimeter and not let them penetrate. But overall, with their great quickness, I think we did a fine job.
See Brent playing defense with those long arms, gets the steal, gets it back, and jams it home. We're tied again. Now, Mario Jackson was the guy left on the bench at the start of this game, and he comes on, played very well in the second half. Gets the ball to Scotty.
Well, Mario always has given us some prime minutes on the floor, and the fact that we're going with a younger outfit really doesn't demean him in any way. It's just the fact that sometimes we need to get more quickness, get some better passers or maybe shooters on the floor, but he's always going to get some minutes and be a big help to us.
Nice hustle there by Mario, saves it to Kareem, puts it in. Mario going to the floor to keep that one alive after he starts the turnover.
That was certainly a big hustle move, and those kind of plays really inspire a team, they inspire our coaching staff, fans, that you put that kind of effort out, they know that you really care.
Cougars do a good job getting into the big man, and they go up by 4 late in the game, and now the big plays down the stretch. And first, this one a 7-0 run. Barry and Haskett, nice reverse here. Scotty had to make a big adjustment. Makes it 70-67 with 2 minutes to go. Now Brent throwing the no look. Comes back the other way, and Lewis puts the Cougs ahead 73-72.
Well, that was an unfortunate situation because it was a pick and a roll, and the play was there. Evidently the timing, the velocity of the pass or something just went astray, but the play was there and you'd make the same play again.
And here's the big one that puts it in OT. Mario slamming home the ball. Little conjecture if this was in the cylinder, but it looks like the ball is coming away when Mario tips it down.
Well, you know, sometimes you look at those and you can run them over and over and over again, but the ref doesn't call it. I guess you got to live with it.
That counts. Mario had the big plays. He was in the middle of everything in the overtime, and unfortunately, he's also the guy at the line who misses one free throw. You got to the line 5 times in the OT. They go to the line 10 times in the extra period, and in the end, the Cougs prevail. Last chance. Mario's your guy, just off the mark. We're that close to going 2 overtimes. Washington State prevails 87-84.
Well, it's kind of one of those games where neither team should lose. There should be some way you get a draw in the book, but it was a good win for Kelvin Sampson and his group.
Scotty ends up with 22 and 11. There's Brent with his 17 points. Free throws again in the extra period. A big difference as it ended up being a battle at the line. But again, you're shooting free throws pretty well here this last month.
Well, we're not shooting bad. We can shoot better. Our next game against Washington shows that our lowest percentage of the day was from the free throw line, and we outshot ourselves from the field.
Well, you need that road win, and coming up, the Beavers got the road victory at Seattle on Sunday. When we come back, we'll take a look at Oregon State and Washington. Stay with us.
The Jimmy Anderson Show continues.
Game 2 of this past weekend was a Sunday afternoon encounter with the Huskies in Seattle, and road wins have been few and far between in recent years, and I know you went up to Seattle and you said, hey, we got to have this one, guys.
Well, road wins are tough to get. Number one, when they come to Corvallis, there's tough wins to get here, so when we go on the road, we know it's not easy. Beating the Huskies at Heck Edmondson is a good win for us.
And again, a very solid overall performance. I don't want to say flawless, but the offense was solid throughout the game, even through that long stretch when Scott Haskin had to sit out.
Well, if I had to rate the players, I would say everybody had a good game. There was a few deficiencies that always crop up, but overall the effort was there, the attitude was there, and we played one of our better games. And shooting makes it go. If you're hitting, you usually look like you're a good team.
All right, let's roll them from Heck Edmondson Pavilion. We're going to look at Scott Haskin right off the bat. Gets another block shot, 58 on the year, 111 for the career, and he's just 2 away from Steve Johnson's career mark. He is going to get that record. Now we're going to watch Brent Berry. Berry the 3 right here. And Brent again off to a good start.
Well, I think the players realize that we have to have inside and out, and Scotty draws a lot of traffic, and that gives our perimeter people some time to set and take open shots, and that's kind of the situation in this game. We didn't have to really overpower anybody to get outside shots.
It was 12-3 right off the bat, and then the Huskies get going. And Pope ends up being the big man rather than Manning. Pope has really come on and been a little more consistent than Rich Manning.
Well, their front line, other than the center matchup, they had like 4 inches on our players, so we knew going in we had to scratch and claw for boards, and we only lost the battle by 3 or 4.
And now it's a 2-point game early on, but you're going to do a good job against their defense. First Mario, and now Scotty getting behind the defender.
That was a nice pass by Kareem Anderson, and Mario timed it just beautifully.
And now McKinney to Haskin. Same result.
Well, you know, Charlie didn't score this game, but he had 6 rebounds and 6 assists. So there's a lot of other ways other than scoring that a team member can really help the overall group.
Carl Anderson again, you know, Scott goes out fairly early with a 4-point lead, and you only lose 1 point of that by halftime. Now Kareem Anderson from the outside. He's deadly from out there, and he's been warming up lately.
3 for 3, but he's working on his shot. And his arch had been always kind of straight, and now he's got slower wrist action, better arch, and just really coming around in his shooting.
Get up by 11, and then French with the steal there. The Dogs do get it down to 3 points at halftime. Now we got a second half action. Now there's Chandler Nairn getting loose. He had 15 points, alley-oop from Paget. 2-point game, and the Dogs even get the lead here briefly when French buries the 3, but they do not sustain their momentum well, and again, just slow and steady. OSU will take charge. There's a 3. It's 43-40, but just a nice solid run, and by midway in the second half, it's really over.
Well, it didn't seem like it was over. The game can change so quickly. If you don't hit free throws, they hit 3s, all of a sudden a 10-point lead can dissipate just within moments. So we did not feel comfortable until the final whistle. At least I know this coach didn't.
From the outside, Haskin inside, Berry outside, and when things are going your way, take a look at this play. Kevin Harris gets up for the tip-in.
Well, if you're in the action, sometimes you get a bounce, and there was a case where Kevin stayed in the action, got bumped around, and got a nice tip for us.
A lot of the faithful enjoying themselves again. Second straight year, there's been a big Beaver crowd up there in Seattle, and for the second straight year, victory at Heckhead. Scotty finishes the job. 22 points, 5 rebounds, 77-67 victory on the road, and that evens the season mark at 13-13 in Pac-10 play. 5-8, 7th place, but very close to 4th place, and I know that's where you want to end up in that top 4.
Well, that certainly would be a highlight of the season if we could finish up the next few games and get the majority of the wins from them.
Got Kareem there with a career high, I believe, 19 points. Brant had 15 points to go with 6 assists, 2 block shots. You shoot the ball very well, 62%.
Well, 62%. I wish we could patent that percentage. That'd be a nice one to have the entire season.
All right, so again, you're even up here. Got the next 3 at home, and this is a big stretch coming up.
Big stretch against very good teams. Arizona, both schools now are on a roll, and then we have our arch rival, then go on the road for 2, and then the season, and we'll have to wait and see what happens.
All right, well, it sounded like the Brent Berry show so far today, so in a moment, we're going to bring him up here and let him tell you about what it takes to start for Oregon State. We'll be back with Brent Berry after this timeout.
The Jimmy Anderson Show continues.
The human highlight film is our guest here this week. Brent Barry came on with obviously his two best back-to-back games of the season. Redshirt freshman, been in and out of the starting lineup, and looks like you made it now for the rest of the way if Coach will let you.
Yeah, well, I think it's just taken a lot of hard work. I really concentrated, especially during the end of the season here. I've been working on my shot a little bit and videotaping it and watching it and trying to correct some things that I have been doing wrong. And I think the hard work is just now paying off.
I know early in the season you'd get in there, and you've always been a hard worker on the floor, but you take yourself out because you'd wear yourself down a little bit. Have you gotten stronger, or are you pacing yourself better?
Well, early in the season, you know, I had some problems because I was forcing a lot of things, and I still do that. But Coach talked to me before the SC game and really gave me a confidence boost, and now I've been just stepped up my level of play.
Obviously, you're an exciting player. The fans picked up on that pretty early this season, some of the things you do. Has that always been part of your game, the no-look passes?
It has, and you know, sometimes Coach and I get in a little conflict about it, but it's just the style that I play, and you know, they recruited me out of high school and they saw me play like that, and you know, it's really tough to change. But we'll see.
You didn't promise to change either, did you?
Well, I don't think it's changing is that we're worrying about it, because it's not the flair, it's the execution at the end. And if they get done, I agree with it. But if they become miscues, errors, situations that doesn't help the team, then we have to make some adjustments.
And certainly it's a volume thing too. The more Brent plays, the more good things are
Well,
going to happen.
I don't want him to go away here just being known as a flash in the pan. He can play defense, he can give leadership, and there's a lot of great things he can do for this team. Passing is just one phase of it, and if we neglect the fact that he has other talents on the floor, I think we're doing a disservice to him and to the program.
And certainly talk about the defense this past weekend. We saw up top with your reach. I mean, it makes a big difference when you're on the guy with the ball.
I do. I have a pretty big wingspan, and I do get my hands on a lot of balls, and it's just, you know, the quick hands are an asset. Chris Mullin in the NBA is a prime example of that. He's not the fastest guy, but his hands are so quick he gets a lot of steals, and it's really good to have that on defense.
Well, anticipation helps you too, Brent. I think as much as anything, if people know how to position themselves and then use their eyes and then use their feet as the mechanism to get them there, you can anticipate, and you may not be the quickest or fastest person, but if you have that and some long arms and a knowledge of the game, what might be happening, you can do a lot of damage.
And of course, that knowledge comes from a good spot. In case people don't know, Brent is one of the Barry boys, one of Rick Barry's. Was it 4 of you?
I have 3 other brothers, 2 older, 1 younger, and a younger sister.
And of course, all the boys have made it into the college ranks. Youngest one just starting at Tech. I know I grew up a big fan of Rick Barry, so I know of where you come, having seen him play in the 60s and 70s. How good is that to have the star at home? I mean, you learned it from when you were this big.
Well, you know, there's pros and cons. The pros is that, you know, I've been around the game, and I feel that I have an advantage over some of the people my age because I've seen so much basketball, and I really took a lot of it in and soaked it in and learned from it. A con being comparisons. It's really tough to be compared to an all-star, a Hall of Famer, and that's really not, I don't think it's very fair for a kid to be compared to somebody like that.
But he's here. I mean, you see him on campus, I know a lot, watching you, working out with you, and I know he goes down to Georgia Tech as well, and so he does spend the time with you. It's not just lip service.
Yeah, he does spend some time, and we do work. It's unfortunate that he hasn't been around as much, but, you know, duty calls, and you know, reality sets in, and you got to work, and that's what's happened with him. So,
you know, Bob, one of the things that's exciting about it, though, his mother, Pam, knows basketball, and it's great to have communication with both sides of the family, and she gives insights as to what makes this young man tick a little bit, so it helps a little bit in the coaching and just friendship and the whole works.
You got a few critics. You can get on the phone and get all kinds of family advice, can't you?
yeah, I do. My grandma even throws in her little 2 cents worth, so I get it from all sides.
Now, I know one of the things your dad said last year was, well, just like all the Barry kids, he's going to fill out a little bit. You still got that growth spurt. You haven't filled out a lot yet. You still got to run around in the shower to get wet.
That's right. I haven't filled out yet, but you know, this spring and this summer is gonna be really tough on myself. You know, I'm going to challenge myself, and I'm going to be in the weight room, and this summer is probably my most important summer as far as basketball and as far as improving, because there's plenty of room for that for me.
But physically, you haven't. I mean, he hasn't taken too much of a beating this year.
No, but he gets pushed around. He doesn't have a lot of meat on those bones, but he's going to learn how to lever, and aggressiveness a lot's up here too. And I think as he gets older, he's going to be more aggressive mentally also.
How much charge is Brent Berry going to be taking the next couple of years? It's going to be a very youthful, experienced team next season.
Well, I think something like this is you earn, and it's the respect of the players and what you get done on the floor. So it's something you can't just predict. It comes with development. I would like to have him have all the charge, but he's got to show he's got the ability to do it and earn that. It's not for me to give it to him.
And if I don't, I'd like to see maybe some of my teammates also step up. If we have a team that's full of leaders instead of full of followers, we'll be that much stronger. So if everybody steps up and has a role on our team, we're going to be that much better.
And finally, let's take a quick look at Arizona State, the rematches this week. I know you guys came back, even from Arizona, thinking we can play with this team.
I think Arizona State's a team that we can definitely beat. They are playing a lot better than we played them down there, and so we'll take a good look at them this week, and I'm sure our game plan will be strong. Arizona, just a really tough school. They're just so big inside, and we can cause them matchup problems. It's just a matter of our executing the game plan, I think, against Arizona and giving us ourselves a chance to win at the end of the ball game.
All right, Brent Berry, thanks for stepping in with us today.
Thanks.
All right, we'll be back and take the complete look. Sun Devils, Wildcats, from the coach's perspective. Stick around.
The Jimmy Anderson Show continues.
Well, all season long, we've been giving you a little bit of an education of the history of college basketball. Some nice pieces prepared by the National Association of Basketball Coaches on this, the 100th anniversary of this wonderful game that we love so much. And this week, we're going to take a dip into the past. You may not recall that in the original days of basketball, they threw a jump ball up after every hoop. Made for some long and boring games. Let's find out why they got rid of this rule.
Ball is almost a thing of the past, but originally the center jump was designed to give each team an equal chance to get the ball. But as the game grew, so did the complaints. The argument was that the jump ball after each goal gave the big man an unfair advantage. Eventually the rule was changed, and it benefited everyone, as legendary coach John Wooden remembers.
I know there was one game at Purdue when we played an opponent that was trying to steal the jump, and Stretch Murphy, this is my sophomore year, when we had the jump all the time, and we had them 16-0, and they had yet to touch the basketball. In other words, we had either ran a play and scored, or we had missed and regained the ball and scored before the other team had possession.
A rule change for all. Basketball, 100 years old and more exciting than ever. And it started with a peach basket.
And we are down now just to the jump ball to start the game. Is that even going to go away eventually?
Well, we start the overtimes that way too, and I don't think there's going to be many more rule changes, but most of them have always been to equalize the game and make the big guy not such a huge factor, widening the key, the clock, getting quickness on the floor. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
All right, we got the rematches this week with the Desert Dwellers. We're going to start off with Arizona State on Thursday night. Beat them pretty good down there, but they were playing horrible then, and ASU has really put it together now. The big guy, Bennett, was a force last week as they upset Arizona.
Well, he had unbelievable statistics against Arizona. 35 points, 11 rebounds, 4 or 5 block shots. Unbelievable, and they're a different team right now, playing with more confidence. Faulkner, the young man on the screen, he was the freshman player of the year, starting to shoot the ball better. So we're going to see a very, very changed team.
They got 3 big guys along with Neal and the Aussie Ronaldson. They'll put 3 different big guys out there, and interesting combinations.
Well, they're always going to have 2 big guys on the floor, and then they have some other people coming off the bench, guards, forwards. They're not lacking for material, so we'll have our hands full.
Again, that win down there maybe a little deceiving because it did come fairly easy. Their offense was pretty anemic that night.
Well, then a few nights later they lose to Louisville by 1, and Louisville has a very strong team this year, so it's not a fluke that they're playing good basketball right now.
And the Devils still thinking postseason. They're 6-6 and right in the middle of that battle for the 4th spot in the Pac-10. Now, let's talk about Arizona. They're coming here on Saturday. That was a game down there where you stayed fairly close, and that was a game where the OSU offense really wasn't in sync, and still you stayed close much of the way.
Well, we missed several easy shots, had a couple turnovers, and against a team like this, if you have those in runs together, all of a sudden they develop a gap of 10, 12 points, and that's pretty much what happened to us here.
They got the big guys who are all very active, but they have had their problems as well. They had a little power failure, losing to the Sun Devils, and Arizona is mortal.
Well, they are mortal, but they seem to have these big guys in so many numbers that they just wear you down. And every time we play them, it just seems like we do a good job defensively, and then they overpower us in the middle on a rebound or just physicalness in the game.
And again, 3 games at home now. The last 3 home games of the regular season. Big chance to make things happen.
That helps. We would like, if possible, to get 3 games at home. And then that gives us a chance with a very positive attitude when we go on the road.
All right, we'll see you at Gill Coliseum, and join us here next week as we wrap up the action on the next edition of The Jimmy Anderson Show. Good day.
This is the Jimmy Anderson Show, the weekly report on Oregon State University basketball.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Acambian, along with the coach. Welcome to this week's show. And Oregon State basketball takes another twist and turn on this crazy season. And the question is, how many players can you finish the season with? It's down to about 8 regulars now.
Well, you have to start 5. And if you have a couple subs, I guess 2 or 3 subs that'll play hard, I guess you can go to 8. It's a real shame that Mario left the team, but my responsibility as the head coach is try to make decisions that's going to give us a chance to win games, not necessarily to realize dreams for young people. And sometimes I have to make decisions that are not compatible with those dreams. So It doesn't come out well in this case, but I am not looking back. I did what I had to do, and that's the way it goes.
And just to fill in the blank, Mario Jackson, the senior forward, did quit the team following Thursday's game with Arizona State. Unhappy with the way his season has gone. Felt perhaps he should have played a bigger role on this team. He certainly had his opportunities throughout the 91-92 season. But now we press on. And another exciting weekend, and this team has continued to play well now through 6 games. You've split 6 games, but very solid efforts all the way across the board.
Well, they have, I think, a nice chemistry amongst themselves right now. They're playing hard. They're playing with one purpose in mind, and that's to win. And they're doing it very unselfishly, and they're trying to put together a string of things that maybe will help us get into the NIT tournament. 2
very tough games this weekend. Arizona State came in here playing much better than they had been, and certainly Thursday night's game was a bigger challenge than that early victory down in Tempe. Let's pick up the highlights from Thursday night at Gill Coliseum. Again, the Sun Devils have just had a big win against Arizona, and their big fella Mario Bennett had been taking charge, and early on in this game it looked like they would control the middle.
Well, we got behind early, and we kept fighting to get back, and eventually we were able to get into a lead. But this was a big game for Arizona State. You can tell they had some tension by the action.
Frieder's working hard. That's the first basket of the game he's up on.
So there's pressure on all the teams in the middle of the pack to do well. And so we're in the middle of the pack, and it was a big game for us, big game for them, and we were fortunate to come out on top.
Sun Devils trying to take advantage of what had been the flaw on the OSU defense in the transition. And Collins gets the ball to Faulkner, and now Bennett again and again. So it's a 10-point game right off the bat, and doesn't look good, and maybe that's even more credit to this team that they came back.
Well, we shot a very nice percentage. We also got the ball inside to our big man, and he had a great night shooting. And then we hit some key shots from the perimeter. But in essence, I think it was a good defensive play by most of our players, and that's what's going to win for you in the long run.
And you talk about games you don't shoot well, and it makes it that much harder. This game, shooting a nice 56%, that makes a big difference. Very good outside shooting this night.
Well, Kareem Anderson and Brent Berry has really stepped up in the last few games, and we're getting steady play from some of our veterans, and that blend really does help us.
Charlie McKinney's going to get the 3-pointer here, and first lead of the game now at 26-24. We're going to see Kareem Anderson again. When he is on, he's a dangerous weapon because he goes inside and outside.
Well, he's here again. He's been playing very steady, but he's also playing strong defense. He's usually matched up with somebody. He's 6'3" or 4. He's matched up with somebody either 6, 7, 8, or 9. So he usually gives up a deficit, but he's been a big, big plus for us.
And there is Kareem, and it's down to a 1-point Arizona State lead at halftime. Some of the fans at Gill Coliseum a little bit anxious about this one, but come out strong in the second half right away. There's Scott Haskin following up the miss, and there's the first lead.
Well, I don't think we give the lead up again, and our defense, again, really was a big plus for us. And Scotty was intimidating inside. We never felt we had the game in complete control until right at the tail end. But there's a nice cut by Mario there.
That ties it again at 45-all. Dwayne Fontana off the bench gives ASU a little bit of a lift here. Again, good stuff in the transition. And now Berry with the steal behind the back to Kareem.
That's a very, very nice fast break in that situation.
So you get ahead for good by 2 points at 59-57. Here's the transition and the score by Fontana. And then a big series here. Brent Berry puts up the 3, and this is it, ahead for good at 59-57. Brent, again, he has 16 points, and in these final 8 minutes, you really put the game away and make the big shots when you need to.
Well, he's been doing that every game, and there was a nice tip for him also. Kevin Harris sat up and tried to make a 3-pointer, and Brent got the tip.
And Carl Anderson from Pat Strickland, who comes in, dishes out a couple of assists late in the game. Haskin will get one from Berry here. Brent has 8 assists on the game, and good offensive finish to this one, pulling away for the 8-point victory.
Well, the pressure's on, and we use Pat in many situations, but one that really helps us is when they start pressing. They put pressure on the perimeter, and he's a fine little dribbler. He can get us into our offense, and he was a real key for us going down to the last 10 minutes of this game.
And Bill Frieder calms down for the final time of the evening. 80-72 the final. Scotty 28 and 8 Outstanding night shooting the ball, 7 3-pointers, and he made all your free throws because they made more baskets in this game, and the difference was those 3-point baskets and making 17 free throws.
Well, that certainly helps. Playing catch-up at the end is normally where the free throws differential usually occurs, because during the main part of the game it was pretty even, and then at the end they had to foul to get possession, and we went up on the free throws.
Well, that's one down for the weekend. Then it was Arizona, number 5 in the nation, coming in Saturday afternoon. When we'll come back, we'll take a look at that epic battle with the Wildcats.
The Jimmy Anderson Show continues.
All right, welcome back. Arizona was the Saturday afternoon opponent. Of course, Cats, number 5 in the country. They're big, they're strong. Lute Olson's got them going to the tournament. They still could win the Pac-10 title. And yet, after the game down in Tucson, I know a lot of the players came back and felt like we can beat this team, and you got a good run at them this week.
Well, we did have a good run at them this weekend. Our shooting failed us. Whether it was our inability to shoot or their defense that caused it is still debatable. But when it really came down to it, their inside post play and their offensive rebound doomed us. We were very afraid from the very start, and our thoughts certainly held up.
And it started out as an excellent defensive game all the way around, or maybe a poor offensive game. Let's roll the highlights now. It was very sloppy. It took about 2 minutes for anybody to score. It went back and forth. Arizona's had trouble from the outside in games this year. In fact, this is when they've lost, when they can't hit from the outside.
Well, to be very honest with you, I thought we had open shots, and I thought they had open shots. And maybe with the pressure of the game, they can't slip if they want to win the Pac-10. We certainly do. If we could have won this game, it would have given us some prestige in some of the balloting for maybe postseason play. So there was some tension in the air, and a lot of times shooting is the first to pay.
Now you see Scott Haskin following up, but the big three are in there. Womack and Rooks and Stopes. And this guy, Damon Stoudemire, who the crowd